Recording in progress.
Welcome everybody to the Cascade Speakeasy Toastmasters meeting. Today is June 27th. It's 5:31, so we're getting a bit of a late start. However, we will jump right in. If everyone will focus on my screen and repeat along with me. Please mute yourselves, however, before you start. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We are back. Our president is not going to be here this evening. I will step in and try and fill her shoes, which will be difficult, but I will do my best. I would like to introduce our Toastmaster this evening. Please welcome Pat Whitfield.
Hi, everybody. Welcome. Here we are out in the ozone again, and not together, but this is still nice to be able to see everybody's face. I see we have a guest. Ruben, tell us something about yourself.
Well, my story is very interesting. In 2005, I had this crazy idea to climb the 7 summits, which I just got marked for an I moved to Beijing, China in 2007, early 2007, and I've been there for 14 years. I returned back to the US. I came to Wenatchee because my fiance is originally from here. So I'm basically restarting my whole life because the majority of my professional career has been abroad. I'm really popular in China, not so well known here in the US. So I told my fiance I need to be with my like-minded people. So I reached out to you guys, and it's really nice to be here.
Well, thank you, Ruben. And you certainly have an interesting story to tell. Hopefully it will be incorporated in one of your speeches in the not too far distant future. We look forward to
Thank you very much.
you.
Appreciate it.
And the only change in tonight's program is that Hideo is going to wear 2 hats. He will be both the counter and the grammarian. And in a little bit, he'll have the chance to share with us what is the word of the day. I always, as Toastmaster, ask for jokes. And I did come prepared with a very short one. Does anyone else have a joke to share? Eric? No? Anybody else have a joke to share? Oh, good. Then I'm glad I brought one. It's very brief, but it cracked me up because it seems so personal. Here it is. A woman on the phone to her friend. I feel like my body has gotten totally out of shape. So I got my doctor's permission to join a fitness club and start exercising. I decided to take an aerobics class for seniors. I bent, twisted, gyrated, jumped up and down, and perspired for an hour. But by the time I got my leotards on, the class was over.
Very good.
So I hope that gave you the same chuckle that it gave me. And now it is my pleasure to introduce to you the general evaluator, Eric Stepper. Eric.
Thank you, Pat. Your babbling brook giggle at the end of your joke was as funny as the joke. I am general evaluator, and that means I will evaluate the meeting from stem to stern, and I will have a report at the end of the meeting to tell you how we all did. But as always, the general evaluator has a team. Tonight we have a speech. Lloyd Smith is very graciously giving a speech, and his evaluator is Vicki Chatterton. Vicki, will you detail what you're looking for on your duty?
I will. Thank you, Mr. General Evaluator. This evening, Lloyd is doing his second speech in his project, Managing Projects Successfully. This is a level 4 project in Innovative Planning Path. He's doing this in conjunction with he previously gave a speech. I'm not sure if it was to this club or another club, about what this project was going to be. And then this evening, he's giving a speech that is 5 to 7 minutes that gives us information on perhaps things that he learned through this project. And I look forward to hearing about what he's accomplished during this. Back to you, Mr. General Evaluator.
Thank you, Vicki. Another member of the team is our timer tonight. Christina is our timer. What are your duties tonight, Christina?
Thank you, Mr. General Evaluator. Tonight, I will be timing Lloyd's speech, Vicki's evaluation, and our table topics section of the evening. The reason we time in Toastmasters is so we can practice working within a designated time frame when we speak. Going on and on puts audiences to sleep. Being succinct, being able to talk on our feet in situations like Chamber of Commerce business after hours, to confine our comments to 1 or 2 minutes and allow the other person to share as well. All good habits of speaking that we practice here at Toastmasters. Tonight, I have a set of signals I'll be using so that people know where they are on their allotted time. Lloyd's speech is 5 to 7 minutes. At 5 minutes, he will see the green. At 6 minutes, he'll see the yellow. And at 7 minutes, he'll see the red. When the red comes up, he'll know that he has 30 seconds to complete his thoughts to stay within the allotted time. When we get to table topics, which will be the next part of the program, table topics are 1 to 2 minutes. At 1 minute, it will be green. At 1.5 minutes, it will be yellow. And at 2 minutes, the speaker will see the red. Vicki's evaluation will be 2 to 3 minutes. It'll be the same sequence, 2 minutes, 2.5 minutes, and 3 minutes. I'll make note of times and report when called upon to do so. Thank you.
Thank you, Christina. Our next role is grammarian. We have a pinch hitter tonight. Hideo has agreed to be grammarian. What is going to be your role as grammarian tonight, Hideo?
Thank you, Mr. General Evaluator. I'm still learning how you do things in this particular club, but this is how I will do grammarian role tonight. First, I have a word of the day. I put it in the chat. The word is an adjective. It is evocative, which means bringing forth strong images, memories, or feelings to mind. An example of this word is her song held powerful, evocative lyrics. So please use that. And I'm, again, learning the ways of this club. Usually you try to use the word of the day when you do table topics to qualify. Is that right? Okay.
You can use the word of the day in any speaking role.
Right. You can use it anytime you want to be evocative if you want to be, or if you want to qualify, if you're in table topics, you must use that word. Also, as a grammarian, I will watch for creative uses of the words we speak tonight and summarize those in the end, at the end of the meeting. Mr. General Evaluator, do you also want me to cover the all counter?
Yes, please, Hideo.
Okay, as an all counter, I have a tally sheet in front of me. Thank you for sending that out, Rob. And I have your names listed down on one column, and then I will check off as diligently as possible, being that I am not the most multitasking person. Now that I retired, multitasking is in the past, all right? So I'm a one-track dog right now. So I will catch some ums and ahs and ers and connectors that people use and mark those accordingly on this tally sheet. And then I will also try to pick up creative uses of the English language or whatever language you choose to speak tonight and report those back. Mr. General Evaluator.
Thank you, Hideo. Tonight we have an evocative grammarian. He is challenging us to not only use the word of the day in any kind of speech, but specifically in table topics. So let's take that to mind. That is my team. I will be keeping track and calling on team members when I am called upon. Right now, I'll hand it back over to our Toastmaster, Patricia.
Thank you, Eric. Thank you. Well, as Vicky has informed you, this evening Lloyd will be doing the second speech in the Managing Project Successfully project, which is required for level 4 of his innovative planning path. You may recall that in his first speech for this project, Lloyd reported on a project his condominium homeowners association had undertaken, the conversion of the irrigation system from domestic to irrigation water. In this evocative second speech, Lloyd will report on how the project has gone. He'll also answer a question that the assignment doesn't consider. That is, how do you deal with external issues that badly interfere with the project? Lloyd Smith and Water, Water Everywhere. Lloyd.
Thank you very much, Madam Toastmaster. Pat summarized this pretty well. Those of you who were attending when I did the first speech might remember that I'm the president of the HOA board here at Ambercrest Condominiums in East Wenatchee. There are 69 units, extensive landscaping, which for some unknown reason, the original developer hooked up to the domestic East Wenatchee water system rather than to the Wenatchee Reclamation District Canal, which forms the western border of our property. We've owned shares of water in that canal forever and have never used them. In the last couple of years, this has become an issue because, probably because of the warmer weather, especially last summer, but we have $9,000 in excess water charges. It's either that or let the landscaping go brown. So our project took on some urgency. When I got on the board, I decided enough talk about this, it's time to do it or not do it, but not just talk about it. So I appointed 2 people to a committee along with me, and we started the process. Now, none of us know the slightest thing about irrigation technology and setting up this thing and all that. So we quickly realized we were way out of our depth and we needed to get a grip on this somehow. So I organized the project kind of the way that our friends at Toastmasters International set it up in the project itself. They offer five or six elements of effective project management. I'm going to use that as the organizational skeleton for the speech. The first thing they talk about is understanding the scope of the project. And that has turned out to be bigger than we thought. When you have irrigation systems around your house, you might have a pump if you're connected to the ditch, or you might just have a faucet that you turn on. We don't have any of that, so we have to think about how to do it. It turns out that what we need to do first is to coordinate several different public agencies. One of them is the Reclamation District itself, because it's their water. We have to contract with the PUD to provide power that will run the pump to get the water out of the canal and push it up the hill. There's going to be some permitting from probably the city of East Wenatchee and maybe even Douglas County, although those shouldn't be issues. They're pretty good at that kind of thing. And so it's a complicated, and then there's an electrical contractor too. The PUD will put the meter in, but not wire the pump. All of those have to be organized in the correct order. And it turns out to be a chicken and egg situation. No one of those organizations wants to start until they know that all of the others are also on board and ready to go. And the question is how to get a grip on this. That is the issue that we're having that has really interfered with this project. As is the case with lots of other things in the world right now, there are supply chain issues. The pumps themselves, and this is a pretty sizable pump we're talking about. It has to push the water up roughly about 60 feet in elevation, and that's not a small thing. The pumps themselves are hard to get. The manufacturers can't get parts and so on. In addition to that, the workers that the company
that will be doing the work had before the pandemic have somewhat evaporated. And so they're short people. And of course, then they have a 2-year backlog of previous jobs that they didn't do during the pandemic. This is not an unusual thing. We have the same issue with cement contractors and everything else you can think of. And probably some of you have had those issues too, trying to buy things or organize things. How to get beyond that? We're at a loss. I mean, there's no way to make a pump magically appear, so we just have to kind of keep prodding them along. Our fallback position was to hire a general contractor in order to do the work, because none of us are experienced at this. It would be very easy to waste a lot of money messing around as amateurs. And so we have someone in mind, but he doesn't want to start doing anything until he knows that all of the agencies and whatnot are lined up and ready to go as well. What this means is that the project is not done and probably will not be done for another year. We were hoping to have it done this spring before the hot weather hit, but that's clearly not going to happen. Along the way, though, the project ground on, whatever. Anyway, I expanded our committee to 4 people. And the reason is the landscape committee chairperson from the board was not in the original group. And it became evident right away we had to have her in that, because we have to think about the plants. We're probably going to change some of the landscaping to make it a little more water friendly as we go along anyway. We also had to think about the budget. Our initial budget was just picked out of the thin air because we had no idea what anything was going to cost. And $50,000 seemed like a lot of money at the time. It is not. Our condominium complex to the south of us spent about $80,000 doing their similar job. Although by not paying the water overage, it comes back in a hurry for not spending the $9,000 a year on overage. So it's a good deal, but it's not a trivial amount of money. Another issue was communicating with the owners here. Nobody likes the idea of spending a ton of money on something like that. But when I pointed out that when they looked out on the street and saw the runoff from our irrigation system, they should think of that as nickels and dimes and pennies rolling down the street into the storm sewers, because it's our nickels and dimes and pennies. And that changed everybody's attitude right away when they found out we might save $9,000 a year. That brings up the last thing that I've had to deal with. As president of the board, I have an office and a title, but I don't have power. That is, I can't make anybody do anything, whatever. And so that is an issue. I've fallen back on the system that I used to use when I taught high school. When I want somebody to do something, I just bug them until they decide that it's better to just do it rather than to put up with me getting on them all the time. And that works quite well. It's kind of, well, the trick is making them think that it's their idea, which it's not. Anyway, our project is stalled. It's probably going to be at least 1 more year before we have it in line. I'm kind of hoping the supply chain unclogs and the materials start showing up and some of those workers magically appear. Once we do that, then all we have to figure out is making sure all the contractors and public agencies and whatnot don't have the same problem that we have. So in terms of managing the project successfully, no, I did not. We didn't finish it. But I learned a lot along the way. And one of those things I learned was patience. Back to you, Madam Toastmaster.
Thank you, Lloyd. I had to take a minute to unmute. And let me make an aside for the benefit of Ruben. Ruben, not all of our members are here tonight. This is a smaller group than usual. So next time you come back, you'll get to meet some more exciting, scintillating people. It's my pleasure now to introduce our table topics master, Rob Tigg. Rob.
Can we have a minute to send our comments to Lloyd?
Amen. I totally forgot. Senior moment. We'll take a minute. Can our timer please keep track of that? You can put that in the chat and direct it to Lloyd.
That's a minute.
All right. Rob,
Thank you, Madam General Evaluator. As the table topics master this evening, my role is to present questions to give everyone an opportunity to come up with extemporaneous responses. You can either answer the question or you can answer a totally unrelated question or matter that you would rather discuss than answer the question posed to you. Ruben, you're under no obligation to participate, but your introduction stirred some evocative images in my mind, and I thought it would certainly be great if you wanted to take a question, but I will pose some questions to others first and then come back. And if you feel comfortable doing that, that's great. If not, that's fine too.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Sure. Entertaining inventions. That is the topic for table topics this evening. I will start with my first question. I believe the most entertaining invention, at least in my active life, is television. I would be curious to know what is the most entertaining invention in your life? Vicky.
Well, thank you, Mr. Table Topics Master. And I'm going to talk kind of about television, but do you remember when they had Walt Disney would have his Sunday night TV show, movie, and he would introduce and he would talk about his plans for Walt Disney World and what he was inventing? Well, I just heard that the Disney Corporation has filed a patent for a new device. Everybody has to carry things all over the park, their backpacks, their water, lunch if they don't want to buy it, just so many things. If you're in Florida, an umbrella. And pretty soon you have so much stuff that you can't purchase anything because you can't hold the purchases. Disney has come up with an invention that you can get a locker. Now they do have lockers right now, but they're in one place and they're usually at the front of the park. And if you buy something at the very back of the park, say in Tomorrowland, you'd have to trek all the way forward. And so it just doesn't work. They have filed a patent where it's a robotic locker where you can command that I'm in this location now, and the locker will go from this location to the next location where you're at. And it can even go to your hotel room if you're staying on property. And so I'm very excited about this innovation. And it's very entertaining because I don't know if they're just going to be floating around the park or if they're going to have some other method of getting it around. But I'm looking forward to this entertaining invention. Back to you, Mr. Toastmaster.
Very good, Vicky. Thank you very much. When I think of inventions, I think the first thing that comes to mind for me is Henry Ford, who invented mass production techniques so that the general masses could afford a car. When you think of inventions, what is the first thing that comes to your mind? Eric.
Thank you, Mr. Table Topics Master. The first thing that comes to my mind is money. We have so many crazy inventors, Elon Musk and electric cars and the batteries, and we've got cryptocurrency and we've got blockchain, and now they're talking about nuclear fission. It can be in a lunchbox, and there are all these different things. I want to get out in front of that. I want to know which one of these companies to buy a little bit in. It just keeps like it's getting into hurricane season. These things are just getting more momentum all the time, and something new's coming over the hill. And Elon Musk has electric cars and maybe even self-driving cars. But one of his better inventions is a battery. If you can get a battery that can get a car that goes 600 miles instead of 300 miles, you've really got something. And I find this whole Wall Street thing and all these different inventions very evocative. I mean, just think if you can just hit like 3 out of 10, you can have an amazing amount of money. And it's just making me crazy. I have a friend that I talked to, I hadn't talked to in about 3 months, and he has an investor that is helping him, and she has got him in blockchain and some of these other things, and quadruple his money. And I know there's risk involved in this, and how you evaluate the risk and getting in front of these is very interesting to me. And I've got to study and find out more about it. But I am just amazed at the inventiveness of people, and then also how to get that into society and help society be better. You talk about Apple, all those different inventions, and the cell phone and the computers and mini computers. I mean, you can just go on and on. And thanks for that question. It's very evocative. Rob.
Thank you very much, Eric. Christina, would you hand over the timing duties to Eric, because I have a question for you. My mother was having trouble opening jars. So I went online and I found the Robo Twist automatic jar opener. Now my mom, she can open any jar in the world. Do you deal with anything in your daily life for which you wish there was a problem-solving invention? Christina.
Problem-solving invention. How evocative is that? The jar opener gizmo thing is a great idea. We have a number of jars. It takes both of us to get those suckers open. And we have a plastic thing that you cram on it and hold it still, and somebody else twists it, and it works. But I think of people who I know who would really struggle even with that. So this automatic jar opener gizmo is a great thing. I think that's a great thing. When you were talking earlier about inventions, wonderful inventions, when we were up in Vancouver, we met a woman who had a licorice store, everything in it, licorice. It was just wonderful. But she also sold hula hoops. She was in her mid-70s, I would say. She belongs to a hula hoop club, and she hula hoops every day for exercise. I thought, what a great idea. Wouldn't it be great if we could all take our hula hoops out in our driveways at a given time of day, and the whole neighborhood, we could pipe music in, and the whole neighborhood could be out there hula hooping together. It would just be so much fun. I would like to invent that, a hula hoop club for Wenatchee with music that is piped citywide. You could take your hula hoop down to Arts Fest on Friday nights and hoop your way to stardom. Thank you.
Very good, Christina. I apologize. I don't have a lot of questions because I knew we'd be a smaller group tonight, so I'm not going to call on Hideo. However, Ruben, do you feel comfortable maybe taking on one of these questions? It's entirely up to you.
Absolutely. I would love to.
Okay. Well, this one's for you.
Perfect.
When I was young, we did a lot of camping, and I thought a cool invention would be to have a sleeping bag with the air mattress actually built into the lining of the sleeping bag. So all you would have to do is pump that up and deflate it when you're done sleeping in the sleeping bag, roll it up, so you didn't have to have separate pieces of equipment. Have you ever come up with an idea in your travels for an invention?
Well, interesting story. This is a very evocative question because I am an inventor. So in 2001, I was 22 years old. It was me and a fellow employee. I was working at a fitness club. His name was Rick Lopez. And we had this crazy idea of a little illuminated sign. So when people are stranded on the side of the road, remember back then there was no GPS, there was no phone, there was no anything. And so the idea was with your tail bed and with your trunk, you can lift up your trunk, you can put your tail bed down. There was this illuminated sign and it had these pre-programmed signals that you, if you had trouble on the side of the road, you could pull over, you can turn on the light, and then oncoming traffic as they were passing, maybe they wouldn't stop, but they would definitely, maybe at the next gas station, give you a call the police, or at least kind of expedite the, police and emergency response. We were sitting in a patent attorney's office, and this was like an all-in-one, you pay us a certain amount of money and we cover everything, the provisional patent, the design, you'll work with our engineers and we'll take you to market. I think all of you have kind of heard some of these stories. And I'm sitting there with Rick Lopez and I look at my bank account and he's going over the different packages that he wants to pitch us. The bronze package, the silver package, the gold package. I'm a young 22-year-old sitting there with Rick. Rick had 2 children. And the guy says, okay, the silver package is $5,950. The gold package is $10,500. And the bronze package is $2,800. I remember this very vividly because it was changed the trajectory of my life forever. I had $6,100 in my bank account. And these $6,100 were money that I was saving for my girlfriend and I to go to Spain. But I was so passionate about this idea because I only needed 1 year and I was just going to become a multimillionaire. It was just going to happen. So I wrote the check. And I put my name on a check for $5,950. Well, nothing ever came of that idea because technology kind of changed how we communicate, how we see GPS, and how we find people. But for the rest of my life, entrepreneurship and inventing has always been a vital part of who I am. So thank you for the question.
Fantastic response, Ruben. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Pat, this one is for you. I'm confident that everyone in this room at some time has seen an invention idea on TV from Ronco with the tagline, "But wait, there's more." I was hooked when I saw the ad for that 100-foot hose that when you were not using it could condense down to 6 inches. I thought that was pretty incredible. Pat, have you ever ordered anything because you saw an ad on TV?
I have, but I'm having a senior moment and I'm drawing a blank right now. But I will share something with you about inventions and such. I have been reading a book called Thank You for Being Late. And the person who wrote this book is talking about how technology has changed our lives, particularly in the 21st century. And it's happening with lightning speed. He cites the experience, and maybe some of you saw this. Did you ever see on Jeopardy the contest between an artificial intelligence robot and Ken Jennings and another guy, and the artificial intelligence won it? That was back in the early 2000s. And according to this book, the milestone year for all the advances that we're having was 2007. And things are happening so rapidly in technology and changing the world in which we live in so many ways, in the field of education, the field of entrepreneurship, the field of marketing, of shopping, of travel. And it talks about all these things that we take for granted, like now, like Airbnb or getting an Uber, which replaced taxis, and how one of the things that's happened with the modern technology has been creating all these opportunities for a single person to become an entrepreneur and make a lot of money. I already said evocative, so quit waving that sign at me. So at any rate, I recommend it to everyone. I can't think of the author's name, but it's called Thank You for Being Late. And I'm about a third of the way through the book, and I can't wrap my head around it. And also, it informed me that I've been a Luddite. So that's not our word of the day, but you don't want to be a Luddite in the 21st century. Thank you.
Thank you, Pat. This last question is for you, Lloyd. Artificial intelligence, or AI, is a controversial invention. Some say that AI robots could be a danger to mankind. What do you think?
Thank you for that evocative question, Rob. I don't think anything about that. I think that's an unknowable topic. If you give it a moment's thought, assuming you could make a machine sentient somehow, there's no way of knowing, of even making a reasonable prediction about what that could do, because it will be a brand new thing in the world. And that I've been thinking through all your questions about a book that I read a long, long time ago. It was a monster bestseller in 1970. It's called Future Shock by Alvin Toffler. And all of the examples, the specific examples in the book that he gave are now obsolete, because after all, it's a long time ago. But the point of the book was that, as Pat was saying, that change is accelerating and it's spinning off all sorts of side effects that are unpredictable, that they've changed the way that people live and survive. But I will never forget the quotation in the book that stuck with me the longest. And that is, Toffler said, since the future really is unknowable, in the future, capability will be much less important than copability. In other words, the ability to change is what will allow some people to survive, and the inability to change will doom others. And I see that around me all the time. There are people who just refuse, for example, to deal with computers. Well, you can't refuse to deal with computers. They're such an essential fact of our lives. So putting those two notions together, I don't think the future is predictable at all. And so there's no way to know what artificial intelligence, assuming that that it ever actually develops, as some people think it might, will do. Back to you, Rob.
Thank you for that response, Lloyd. We are going to end a little bit early on table topics. I'm going to turn the meeting back over to our Toastmaster. Please welcome back Pat Whitfield.
Thank you very much. And I, in turn, am going to pass the baton to our general evaluator, Eric Stepper. Eric.
Thank you, Ms. Toastmaster. It's time now for our team members, and our first team member up is evaluation of Lloyd's speech by Vicky. Vicky.
Thank you very much. Lloyd, this project was very evocative and got me to thinking, how is he going to present when I know that you belong to so many different groups and you had to do 2 different speeches? In your introduction, you had it to where Pat gave kind of an overview of what your project was, so that you didn't have to spend a whole bunch of time re-explaining to this group. And I believe that there was a couple members who probably didn't hear the first speech. And so it was a great setup to this speech that you were giving. And then you gave us a little bit more back study to this, as far as what your role in your condominium committee group is, how many people are there. And you were telling us again about what the issue was that you were going to be addressing on this. Then you told us the committee makeup of who initially started on it so that we could understand who you were dealing with throughout this project. And then you gave us so many things as to what the other parts that needed to go into this project in order for completion. So many other people needed to be involved. And then not only did other people need to be involved, there was other issues such as the supply chain and the worker shortage. And as you're telling this, we can all relate because we're all there. There's certain things that we want to do repairs just to our own home or have somebody come and look at something. And there is that backlog. And so this was a very relatable project because everybody in this audience, I believe, has had to deal with it. One suggestion I do have, though, is you did refer to the chicken and egg situation. Not everybody might understand that analogy. The majority may, but there's a generation where I don't think that that is a term that's used as much as it has been in the past. So you just might want to use that analogy, know it within your audience, knowing your audience. I would have also liked to have a time frame better laid out as to how long this problem has existed. And maybe you had said it, but just over this year of the, you know, when you're talking to these people, how long it's been taking you. You did tell us that there's a 2-year backlog of people coming. So we know that it's still a project that's a couple years out type of thing, but I just a little bit tighter on your time frame would be great. I liked the analogy of the dollars and or change running down with this water. That was a great analogy, and I really like that in this project. And then how you expanded it to include the landscaper, great, and bringing this all together. You gave a great wrap up of, yes, you didn't manage the project the way that you had wanted the outcome, but at least there's progress. And I believe that you left us giving with hope that it will get done. Back to you, Mr. General Evaluator.
Thank you, Vicki. Let's check on our timing. Ms. Christina, how we do on timing tonight?
Thank you, Mr. General Evaluator. I was just noting the time for Vicki's evaluation. Lloyd's speech, 6 minutes, 58 seconds. Vicki's evaluation was 3 minutes, 41 seconds. For table topics, Vicki, 1 minute 40, Eric, 2:05, Rob, 1:53. Did you do a table topics? Why do I have you for table topics? Well, whatever. Pat, 2 minutes. Mine was 2 minutes, 6 seconds. Ruben's 2 minutes, 58 seconds. Oh, Lloyd's. That was Lloyd's, 1 minute 53. I wrote it on the wrong line. My apologies. That's my report.
Thank you, Christina. Our grammarian was very evocative in his duties tonight. He had a word of the day flashcard. I thought that was very cute, and we should adopt that. Hideo, what else did you find as grammarian?
I find as grammarian and I'll counter that multitasking is not in my forte anymore. It is quickly being lost in this heat. I think anything above 85 degrees, you cannot consider me to do multitasking anymore. For grammarian report, everybody on the screen used the word of the day. Thank you for doing that. I got everybody who participated in table topics using it with the exception of Vicki, and forgive me if I missed that. And Pat, forgive me for over cueing you, you know, what can I say? I just missed it. All right, for interesting uses of the English language, for our speaker, Lloyd, no way to make a pump magically appear, which goes along with the project was picked out of thin air. That's very good. And I like what was said earlier, water runoff. Think of nickels and dimes running down the street. Ruben, I like in 1 year, I was going to become a multimillionaire. I can't tell you in my lifetime how many MLMs I have been involved in that I was going to be a multimillionaire. And it took me a couple to realize it's a zero-sum game. And I was always on the zero end of it. So take that.
Cheers. Cheers.
Christina, Wenatchee Hula Hoop Club. I like that. Rob Ronco. And wait, there's one more. Pat, I've been a Luddite. Well, I am a Luddite. Lloyd, let's see. Quoting Toffler, change is accelerating. And Lloyd and Lloydism is the future is not predictable at all. That's my grammarian report.
Thank you, Dale. Good job. How about our county?
All right. This is a hit or miss thing here. We have a sprinkling of connectors used by different people. The favorites were and, so, and then some creative ones. The ahs, Lloyd had 3. Eric had 1. The ands, Lloyd, you had 4. Vicky, you had 3. For the so's, Lloyd had 3. Vicky had 1. Christina had 1. And some of the creative uses that Lloyd had is and all that. When you kind of came to a dead end and you said, and all that. And then you use whatever. And then you use anyway as connector. Christina, you also use whatever as a connector. And everybody else was pretty clean. That's my Alcona report.
Thank you, Hideo. In my evaluation of the meeting, I thought it was a great meeting and great energy. I appreciated Hideo coming up with the grammarian role. When anybody ever asks me when we just come to the screen and there's not a grammarian, do you want to be grammarian? I always say no. I don't want to be grammarian at the last second. So good for you, Hideo. I love my team. And Ruben, great job for going in there and tackling a tabletop. You did it very well.
Thank you very much.
Yes, Pat, I always can count on you to have a joke and a very funny joke, and I appreciate that too. We stepped in and did our roles, and the meeting came off with a hitch. Lloyd, thanks for doing the speech. You step in and do speeches, and I know they're important to do, and I appreciate that, so that people like Ruben and new people can see what goes on in a full meeting. So, Ruben, do you have any questions of us tonight?
No, just the whole experience has brought back a lot of evocative memories of being in Scottsdale in 2002, 2003 with Toastmasters. So thank you for having me. I'm glad to be part of it.
And with that, I will turn it over to our pro tem, Rob.
Thank you very much, Eric. Again, a wonderful meeting. Ruben, I hope that you will continue to come back and join us next week. Our president will be back. We will be meeting in person. Oh, she will not be back next week. Our
It's
new
4th of
president.
July.
4th of July, we
4th
aren't
of
meeting.
Well,
July.
4th of July, you're absolutely correct. So it's going to be 2 weeks before we are back in person or hybrid. We will continue to do that.
You know where the library is, Ruben, where we meet in person?
I don't know where it's at, but I'll look it up. No
Okay,
worries.
okay.
I always
I'll
include
be
that
there.
I always include that in the announcement when I send out the agenda, and I'm sure that Lloyd will do that at least in the first meeting. Anyone else have any other comments or information they want to share for the good of the order?
Chloe wants to say goodnight to everybody. She's been supervising my participation and she thinks everybody did a stellar job. So.
Wonderful, thanks, Pat. Lloyd?
Yeah, on Saturday, the club officer training, we had 2 officers make it. Vicky and I were both there. And so the makeup will be at some future date. Hard to know exactly when. In fact, I doubt they've said it at all yet, haven't they, Vicky?
They have not said it yet.
Okay, well, anyway, when that'll come up, that will be online, so there won't be any travel at that. It was actually, I thought, a pretty fast moving session. It lasted, I think, right at 3 hours, but that there was a lot of content in the 3 hours. So it was worth doing. Next one will come up. And Hideo, I've got to say that if 85 degrees is your threshold, you might want to go into hibernation here. It's right now it's 102 out on my patio, and I only live a few blocks away from you.
Remember, I come from the dark side.
Yeah. Well, pretty soon the heat will bake all of the moisture out of your body, and you'll be like the rest of us.
Lloyd, do you have Ruben's email so he'll get the next notification? Okay.
Yes.
Well, thank you, everyone. Stay cool. I'm going to go ahead and call this meeting adjourned a little bit early.
Good night, everybody.
See you in a couple of weeks.
Thank you.
Yep.
Have a good
Right,
night.
happy 4th.